Welcome to Apex Atlas. Tonight, we journey across the equator to a land of immense vitality, ancient rivers, and endless coastlines. A land where the deep emerald of the rainforest meets the deep blue of the Atlantic. This is Brazil. As you settle into your space, let the sounds of the modern world fade away. Imagine the air turning warm and humid, carrying the scent of rain on tropical leaves. Imagine the soft, rhythmic pulse of the ocean as it brushes against the white sands of the south, and the vast, quiet mystery of the Amazon as night begins to fall. Brazil is more than a nation, it is a continent within itself. Tonight, we will trace its story, from the indigenous roots that reach back thousands of years and the colonial echoes of the Portuguese crown, to the architectural wonders of Brasília and the soul-stirring energy of its modern cities. We will wander through the iron-rich mountains of Minas Gerais, the colonial cobbles of Salvador, and the vast, flooded plains of the Pantanal. This is a journey of color, history, and the relentless beauty of the natural world. The sun is dipping below the canopy, the forest is beginning its nighttime song, and the chronicle of the deep south is ready to begin. Breathe in the warm air, let your mind wander, and let us venture into the heart of Brazil. Locations and borders. Brazil occupies the great eastern sweep of South America, a country so vast that it feels continental in scale. From the Atlantic Ocean on its eastern edge to deep interior forests and plains, Brazil stretches across latitudes, climates, and cultures, shaping a geography that is as diverse as it is expansive. Bordering almost every country in South America, Brazil shares frontiers with 10 nations, including Argentina, Bolivia, Colombia, Peru, and Venezuela. These borders are often defined not by fences or walls, but by rivers, rainforests, and remote highlands, places where geography has shaped connection more than division. In the Amazon basin especially, borders blur into a shared world of water, trees, and wildlife. To the east, Brazil opens fully to the Atlantic Ocean, with a coastline that runs for more than 7,000 kilometers. This long coastal edge has shaped the country's history, from early Portuguese settlement to modern beach culture, port cities, and global trade. The sea has always been Brazil's outward-facing horizon. The country's interior feels different again. Vast regions stretch far from the coast, where rivers replace roads and distances are measured in days rather than kilometers. The Amazon River system dominates the north, acting as both a natural border and a lifeline, while the south and center open into plateaus, wetlands, and agricultural heartlands. Brazil's borders are not just lines on a map, they are transitions. Languages shift, cuisines blend, and landscapes evolve gradually rather than abruptly. Traveling across Brazil often feels like crossing invisible thresholds, where one region quietly gives way to another. This sense of scale and openness defines Brazil's identity. It is a country shaped by movement, of water, people, culture, and nature, grounded firmly in South America, yet expansive enough to feel like a world of its own. Landscapes and regions. Brazil's landscapes unfold like chapters in an epic, each region distinct, each revealing a different relationship between people and nature. Traveling through Brazil means moving between worlds: dense rainforest, open wetlands, rolling savanna, dramatic mountains, and a coastline shaped by wind and water. In the north, the Amazon dominates everything. This vast rainforest breathes with life, towering trees, winding rivers, and a constant hum beneath the canopy. Here, water is the road and the forest is the horizon. Communities live in rhythm with the river, and the sense of scale is humbling. The Amazon is not just scenery, it is a living system that shapes climate, culture, and identity. To the west, the Pantanal opens wide. One of the world's largest tropical wetlands, it floods seasonally, transforming grassland into shimmering water. Wildlife gathers in abundance, birds, jaguars, capybaras, making the landscape feel alive and watchful. Unlike the dense Amazon, the Pantanal is open and expansive, offering long views and quiet intensity. The central heartland is shaped by the Brazilian highlands and the Cerrado savanna. This region feels grounded and expansive, with red earth, twisted trees, and wide skies. Often overlooked by travelers, it plays a vital role in Brazil's ecology and agriculture, offering waterfalls, plateaus, and hidden national parks. Along the southeast coast, mountains rise abruptly from the sea. Forested hills frame vibrant cities, creating dramatic contrasts between urban life and nature. Beaches curve beneath granite peaks, and rainforests press close to roads and neighborhoods, reminding visitors how tightly woven landscape and daily life are here. In the northeast, the land grows drier and brighter. Wind-sculpted dunes meet freshwater lagoons at places like Lençóis Maranhenses, creating surreal patterns of sand and sky. Further inland, semi-arid regions reveal resilience, landscapes shaped by sun, tradition, and adaptation. Brazil's regions do not compete, they coexist. Each contributes a different mood, rhythm, and story, together forming a country defined by contrast, abundance, and natural drama. Climate and seasons. Brazil doesn't have a single climate, it has many moods, shaped by latitude, altitude, and landscape. Seasons here are felt less through cold and heat, and more through rain, light, and rhythm. Understanding Brazil's climate is about tuning into nature's timing rather than watching the calendar. Because Brazil lies mostly in the tropics, temperatures remain warm year-round across much of the country. Instead of 4 distinct seasons, most regions experience a wet season and a dry season, each bringing its own character and color. In the Amazon, the air is warm and humid throughout the year. Rainfall is frequent, often arriving in dramatic afternoon downpours that feed rivers and renew the forest. During the wetter months, waterways expand and travel shifts to boats, while the drier period makes forest trails and wildlife spotting more accessible. The Pantanal follows a powerful seasonal cycle. In the wet season, floodwaters spread across the plains, transforming the region into a shimmering mosaic of lagoons and channels. As waters recede during the dry months, animals gather around shrinking water sources, creating some of the best wildlife viewing conditions in the world. The central and southeastern regions, including major cities, experience clearer seasonal contrast. Summers are hot and lively, often accompanied by tropical rainstorms, while winters are milder, drier, and comfortable for exploring cities, hiking, and road trips. Snow is virtually unknown, but cooler evenings can surprise travelers at higher elevations. Along the coast, the climate feels relaxed and sun-led. Beach weather is possible year-round, though the dry season brings clearer skies and gentler humidity. Sea breezes moderate temperatures, creating long days perfect for swimming, walking, and watching sunsets over the Atlantic. In the northeast, climate shifts again. Some areas experience long dry periods followed by intense rains, shaping both the landscape and local culture. Festivals, agriculture, and daily life are closely tied to these seasonal patterns. Brazil's seasons don't limit travel, they shape it. Each time of year reveals a different version of the country, rewarding travelers who adapt rather than resist the rhythm. Wildlife and biodiversity. Brazil is one of the most biologically rich places on Earth, a living archive of evolution where life thrives in extraordinary variety. Traveling through Brazil often feels like stepping into a natural world that is louder, brighter, and more alive than anywhere else. At the heart of this abundance lies the Amazon rainforest, the largest tropical rainforest on the planet. Its layered canopy shelters countless species, many still undiscovered, from colorful macaws and slow-moving sloths to elusive jaguars and pink river dolphins. Insects hum constantly, frogs call from hidden pools, and life unfolds at every level, from forest floor to treetops. Further south, the Pantanal offers a very different wildlife experience. This vast wetland is one of the best places in the world to observe animals in the wild. Seasonal flooding concentrates life around water sources, making sightings frequent and unforgettable. Jaguars stalk riverbanks, capybaras graze openly, caimans bask in the sun, and hundreds of bird species fill the sky. Brazil's biodiversity extends far beyond these famous regions. The Atlantic forest, once stretching along much of the coast, remains a hotspot for rare species despite heavy historical loss. In the Cerrado savanna, twisted trees and grasslands support unique plants and animals adapted to fire and drought, while the Caatinga in the northeast reveals resilient life shaped by arid conditions. Marine life is equally impressive. Brazil's long coastline hosts coral reefs, turtles, dolphins, and migrating whales, particularly in warmer waters to the north and east. Coastal ecosystems play a vital role in both biodiversity and local livelihoods. Wildlife in Brazil is deeply tied to conservation efforts and indigenous knowledge. National parks, reserves, and protected lands aim to preserve these ecosystems, while traditional communities continue to live in balance with their environments, guided by generations of understanding. Encountering wildlife in Brazil is not about spectacle, it's about respect. Observing animals in their natural habitats offers a powerful reminder of nature's complexity and the responsibility humans share in protecting it. Natural wonders. Brazil's natural wonders are vast, dramatic, and deeply humbling, places where scale and beauty meet raw power. These are landscapes that don't simply impress, they change how you see the world. At the border with Argentina, Iguazu Falls crashes through the rainforest in a thunderous display of water and mist. Hundreds of individual cascades stretch across kilometers, their roar echoing through jungle thick with butterflies and birds. Standing near the Devil's Throat, where water plunges into a churning abyss, you feel the force of nature in its purest form. In the northeast, Lenquar Maranhenses feels almost unreal. Rolling white sand dunes ripple toward the horizon, interrupted by crystal-clear freshwater lagoons that form during the rainy season. Swimming in these temporary pools beneath open skies creates one of Brazil's most surreal experiences, a desert that fills with life. The Amazon River itself is a wonder beyond comparison. So wide in places it resembles an inland sea, it carries immense volumes of water from the Andes to the Atlantic. River journeys reveal flooded forests, floating villages, and wildlife at the water's edge, offering a slow, immersive way to understand the world's greatest rainforest. In the heart of the country, Chapada Diamantina rises in dramatic contrast. Tabletop mountains, deep canyons, underground caves, and cascading waterfalls shape a landscape made for exploration. Trails lead to hidden pools and panoramic viewpoints, where silence is broken only by wind and water. Off Brazil's coast, Fernando de Noronha stands as a marine paradise. Volcanic islands rise from turquoise seas, surrounded by coral reefs and abundant marine life. Dolphins glide through bays, turtles nest on beaches, and clear waters invite snorkeling and reflection in equal measure. Brazil's natural wonders are not isolated sites, they are living systems. They reward patience, respect, and curiosity, reminding travelers that the most powerful experiences often come from standing still and simply taking it in. National parks and reserves. Brazil protects its most extraordinary places through a vast network of national parks and reserves, spaces set aside not just for scenery, but for balance. These protected landscapes safeguard ecosystems, wildlife, and traditional ways of life, offering travelers the chance to experience Brazil at its most raw and authentic. In the south, Iguaçu National Park surrounds the mighty Iguazu Falls, preserving Atlantic forest rich in birds, butterflies, and dense greenery. Well-maintained walkways allow close encounters with the falls while keeping the surrounding rainforest protected and thriving. The dramatic interior landscapes of Chapada Diamantina National Park reveal a different side of Brazil. Tabletop mountains, deep canyons, caves, and waterfalls create a landscape made for hiking and discovery. Former diamond mining routes now lead to panoramic viewpoints and crystal-clear pools hidden deep within the park. In the heart of the wetlands lies Pantanal National Park, one of the best wildlife reserves on Earth. Seasonal flooding shapes the land, concentrating animals around waterways and making sightings remarkably frequent. Conservation here focuses on coexistence, protecting biodiversity while supporting sustainable local livelihoods. Further north, Lençóis Maranhenses National Park protects a landscape found nowhere else. Wind-shaped dunes stretch endlessly, while seasonal rains fill lagoons between the sands. Strict protections ensure this fragile environment remains pristine despite its growing popularity. Closer to major cities, parks like Serra dos Orgãos National Park prove that wilderness is never far away. Jagged peaks, cloud forests, and challenging trails rise just beyond urban centers, offering dramatic escapes into nature within hours. Across Brazil, indigenous reserves and protected forests also play a vital role. These lands are living landscapes, cared for by communities whose knowledge has preserved ecosystems for generations. Brazil's national parks are not simply places to visit, they are commitments to the future. Traveling through them offers a deeper understanding of the country's natural wealth and the responsibility that comes with it. Mountains and hiking routes. Brazil's mountains rise quietly rather than dramatically, revealing their beauty through long views, deep valleys, and trails that reward patience. Hiking here is less about conquering peaks and more about moving through landscapes shaped by time, water, and forest. One of Brazil's most celebrated hiking regions is Chapada Diamantina, where flat-topped mountains, canyons, and waterfalls create a playground for walkers of all levels. Trails lead to panoramic viewpoints, underground rivers, and clear pools hidden beneath cliffs. The paths often follow old diamond mining routes, blending history with adventure as you cross open plateaus and shaded valleys. Closer to the coast, the Serra do Mar mountain range runs parallel to the Atlantic, rising sharply from the sea. Here, Hiking routes weave through dense Atlantic forest, where mist clings to treetops and birds flash through the canopy. Trails offer dramatic contrasts, rainforest one moment, sweeping ocean views the next, especially near cities like Rio de Janeiro. Just beyond Rio, Serra dos Orgãos presents some of Brazil's most striking mountain scenery. Jagged granite peaks, cloud forests, and demanding routes attract experienced hikers, while gentler trails lead to waterfalls and lookout points. The famous crossing trail through the park is considered one of the country's classic multi-day hikes. In the south, Itatiaia National Park, Brazil's oldest national park, offers cooler temperatures and alpine-style landscapes. Rocky peaks, high-altitude grasslands, and quiet trails create a different hiking atmosphere, particularly appealing during warmer months. For the truly adventurous, Brazil's highest peak, Pico da Neblina, rises deep within the Amazon region near the Venezuelan border. Reaching the summit is a challenging expedition requiring guides, permits, and careful planning. The reward is not just altitude, but the experience of traveling through remote rainforest and indigenous lands rarely seen by outsiders. Hiking in Brazil is about immersion. Trails often feel wild and untamed, guided by rivers, ridges, and forest paths rather than signposts. Preparation and respect for nature are essential, but those who take the time are rewarded with silence, scale, and unforgettable views. Rivers and lakes. Water is the quiet architect of Brazil. Rivers carve routes through rainforest and savanna, lakes mirror vast skies, and seasonal floods transform entire regions. Traveling along Brazil's waterways offers a slower, deeper way to understand the country, one shaped by movement, reflection, and life. The Amazon River is the backbone of northern Brazil and one of the world's great natural forces. Fed by countless tributaries, it carries immense volumes of water across thousands of kilometers. Life here follows the river's pulse. Boats replace roads, markets float, and communities gather along shifting banks. Dawn brings mist and birdsong. Dusk settles into stillness broken only by paddles and engines. In Manaus, the famous meeting of waters reveals the river's complexity. The dark Rio Negro flows beside the sand-colored Solomos for kilometers without mixing, a natural phenomenon that feels almost symbolic, different currents sharing the same direction. To the west and south, the Pantanal tells a different water story. During the wet season, rivers spill into plains, creating a mosaic of lagoons and channels. As waters recede, lakes shrink and wildlife gathers, turning waterways into stages for daily survival. Here, rivers are not boundaries but lifelines. Across the interior, Brazil's rivers support agriculture, hydroelectric power, and travel. Wide, slow-moving waters contrast with waterfalls and rapids that surge through plateaus and canyons. Many hiking regions reveal hidden pools and natural swimming spots where clear water cools the heat of the day. Brazil's lakes are fewer than its rivers, but no less meaningful. Natural lakes dot wetlands and highlands, while man-made lakes like Lake Paranoa in Brasília create urban oases for swimming, sailing, and leisure. In forest regions, small lakes appear unexpectedly, framed by trees and alive with birds. Whether vast or intimate, Brazil's rivers and lakes invite patience. They encourage you to travel slowly, listen closely, and let the landscape guide the journey. Caving and underground worlds. Beneath Brazil's forests, plateaus, and savannas lies a hidden country, a world of caverns, subterranean rivers, and chambers sculpted over millions of years. Exploring Brazil underground reveals a quieter side of its natural drama, where light fades, echoes deepen, and water becomes the guide. One of the most celebrated cave experiences is found near the town of Bonito, where limestone landscapes conceal crystal-clear rivers and vast caverns. The iconic Gruta do Lago Azul opens into a cathedral-like chamber where deep blue lake glows under shafts of sunlight. Descending into the cave feels ceremonial, a slow transition from daylight into stillness. Bonito's underground world is also defined by water. Subterranean rivers flow so clear they appear invisible, allowing snorkelers to drift silently above fish and rock formations. Strict conservation rules limit visitor numbers, ensuring these fragile systems remain pristine and alive. In Chapada Diamantina, caves cut deep into plateaus and canyons, revealing stalactites, underground waterfalls, and vast chambers once explored by diamond seekers. Some caves are easy to enter with local guides, while others require ropes, headlamps, and patience. Journeys that reward curiosity with scale and silence. Elsewhere across Brazil, limestone regions shelter hundreds of lesser-known caves. Many are still being mapped and studied, offering insight into geology, climate history, and rare cave-dwelling species. These underground spaces feel untouched, reminding visitors how much of Brazil remains unseen. Caving in Brazil is always guided by respect. Fragile formations take thousands of years to grow, and ecosystems depend on darkness and balance. Guided tours ensure safety while preserving the integrity of these hidden worlds. Stepping back into daylight after a cave journey often feels transformative. Above ground, the forest hum resumes, but beneath your feet, Brazil's ancient, silent landscapes continue to breathe. Festivals and celebrations. In Brazil, celebration is not an escape from daily life, it is part of it. Festivals mark seasons, honor faith, celebrate history, and give rhythm to the year. Music, color, and movement flow naturally into streets and squares, inviting everyone to take part. The most famous celebration is Carnival, a festival of sound and spectacle that transforms cities across the country. In Rio de Janeiro, samba schools fill the Sambadrome with choreography, costume, and storytelling months in the making. Elsewhere, Carnival takes different forms: street parades in Salvador, spontaneous bloco parties in São Paulo, and regional traditions shaped by local culture. What unites them all is joy, creativity, and collective expression. In the Northeast, Festa Junina brings a very different mood. Celebrated in June, it honors rural life and the harvest with bonfires, folk dancing, live music, and traditional foods. Town squares glow with lanterns as people dress in colorful, rustic costumes, creating a warm, communal atmosphere that feels intimate and deeply rooted. Deep in the Amazon, the Parintins Folklore Festival turns myth and legend into theater. Competing teams perform elaborate shows inspired by indigenous stories, animals, and forest spirits. Music, dance, and towering costumes celebrate cultural identity while keeping ancient narratives alive. Brazil's spiritual calendar is equally vibrant. Religious festivals blend Catholic traditions with African and indigenous influences, creating ceremonies that feel layered and expressive. Processions, music, and offerings transform churches and streets into spaces of devotion and community. New Year's Eve in Brazil is celebrated with hope and symbolism. On beaches like Copacabana, thousands gather dressed in white, watching fireworks and offering flowers to the sea in rituals asking for protection and renewal. It's a moment of reflection wrapped in celebration. What makes Brazilian festivals special is their openness. You don't need an invitation. Participation is the invitation. Whether dancing in the street, sharing food, or simply watching from the sidelines, festivals offer a window into Brazil's heart, generous, expressive, and alive. Food and drink. Food in Brazil is generous, comforting, and deeply tied to place. Meals are rarely rushed and often shared, reflecting a culture where eating is as much about connection as it is about nourishment. Across the country, flavors shift with geography, history, and climate, creating one of the most diverse food cultures in the world. At the heart of Brazilian cuisine is feijoada, a rich black bean stew traditionally cooked with pork and served with rice, greens, and orange slices. More than a dish, it's a social ritual, often enjoyed slowly on weekends with family and friends. Each region has its own version, shaped by local tastes and traditions. Street food is everywhere and deeply loved. Snacks like coxinha, crispy chicken croquettes, pastel, thin, fried pastries, and cheese-filled breads appear at markets, beaches, and street corners. These quick bites are satisfying, affordable, and full of flavor, a window into everyday Brazilian life. Brazil's tropical climate brings extraordinary variety in fruits. Mangoes, papayas, pineapples, passion fruit, acai, and countless lesser-known varieties fill markets with color. Fresh juices are popular and widely available, often blended to order and enjoyed throughout the day. Along the coast, seafood takes center stage. In the northeast, dishes like moqueca, a fragrant stew of fish or shrimp cooked with coconut milk, tomatoes, and herbs, reflect African and indigenous influence. Inland regions favor grilled meats, stews, and slow-cooked comfort foods shaped by rural traditions. Brazil is also one of the world's great coffee cultures. From strong, sweet cafezinho served in small cups to carefully brewed specialty coffee, drinking coffee is a daily ritual. Coffee breaks punctuate conversations, workdays, and travel alike. Desserts are simple but satisfying, often based on condensed milk, coconut, and chocolate. Treats are sweet, comforting, and meant to be shared, just like the meals that come before them. In Brazil, food is not about perfection or presentation. It's about warmth, abundance, and bringing people together, a reflection of the country itself. Arts and music. Brazil's artistic spirit is expressive, rhythmic, and deeply rooted in everyday life. Art and music here are not confined to galleries or concert halls. They spill into streets, beaches, neighborhoods, and celebrations, shaping how people move, speak, and connect. Music is the heartbeat of Brazil. Samba emerged from Afro-Brazilian communities as both resistance and celebration, its rhythms carrying stories of joy, struggle, and identity. It fills carnival parades and backyard gatherings alike, creating a sense of unity that feels instinctive rather than rehearsed. Alongside samba, softer sounds tell quieter stories. Bossa Nova, born in mid-20th century Rio de Janeiro, blends jazz influences with gentle melodies and poetic lyrics. Its relaxed rhythm mirrors Brazil's coastal mood, intimate, reflective, and timeless. Even today, its influence can be felt in cafes, beachside bars, and late-night conversations. Brazil's musical diversity goes far beyond these genres. Forró energizes the northeast, funk carioca pulses through urban neighborhoods, and indigenous rhythms echo ancient connections to land and ritual. Each region carries its own sound, shaped by history, migration, and landscape. Visual art in Brazil is equally powerful. From bold street murals covering city walls to refined works in modern museums, Brazilian art often explores identity, inequality, spirituality, and joy. Cities like São Paulo and Rio de Janeiro host vibrant street art scenes where color becomes commentary and public space becomes canvas. Traditional art forms remain vital. Hand-painted ceramics, wood carvings, textiles, and beadwork reflect regional heritage and indigenous influence. These crafts are not relics of the past, they continue to evolve, blending tradition with contemporary expression. Movement itself becomes art through capoeira, a unique blend of dance, martial art, and music. Performed in circles accompanied by instruments and song, capoeira embodies resilience, rhythm, and community, a living expression of Brazil's cultural fusion. Brazilian art and music are not polished for perfection. They are lived, felt, and shared, expressive mirrors of a country that values emotion, creativity, and connection above all else. Clothing and fashion. Clothing in Brazil is shaped by climate, movement, and self-expression. Fashion here is practical yet expressive, designed to suit heat and humidity while celebrating color, identity, and confidence. What people wear often reflects where they are, what they're celebrating, and how they feel. In everyday life, style is relaxed and functional. Lightweight fabrics, breathable cottons, and loose silhouettes dominate, especially in warmer regions. Comfort matters, but so does presentation. Brazilians often dress neatly and thoughtfully, even in casual settings. Footwear tends to be practical, with sandals and trainers widely worn in cities and coastal towns. Beachwear is a defining part of Brazilian fashion. Along the coast, swimsuits are worn with confidence and ease, reflecting a culture that embraces the body and outdoor life. Cover-ups are minimal, and the transition from beach to cafe feels natural rather than formal. Traditional clothing comes alive during festivals and celebrations. During Festa Junina, people wear rustic, rural-inspired outfits, straw hats, patterned dresses, checked shirts, honoring Brazil's countryside roots. At Carnival, fashion transforms into spectacle. Costumes burst with feathers, sequins, and color, designed not just to be seen but to move with music and dance. Indigenous clothing traditions remain deeply symbolic. Feathers, beads, body paint, and natural materials are used to express identity, spirituality, and connection to nature. These garments are not costumes, but cultural expressions tied to ritual, community, and ancestry. Modern Brazilian fashion blends local creativity with global influence. Designers often draw inspiration from nature, heritage, and social themes, creating work that feels bold yet grounded. Street style in cities like São Paulo reflects this mix, expressive, individual, and unafraid. In Brazil, clothing is less about trends and more about presence. It reflects warmth, openness, and a willingness to be seen as you are, comfortable, confident, and alive. Language and literature. Language in Brazil is musical, expressive, and full of warmth. Conversations flow with rhythm and gesture, and words are often accompanied by laughter, emphasis, and emotion. To listen to Brazilian Portuguese is to hear the country itself, shaped by history, migration, and a deep love of expression. The official language is Portuguese, making Brazil the largest Portuguese-speaking country in the world. While rooted in Portugal's language, Brazilian Portuguese has evolved into something distinct. It is softer in sound, rich in slang, and deeply influenced by indigenous, African, and immigrant languages. Regional accents vary widely, and each carries its own cultural identity and cadence. For visitors, Portuguese is central to daily life, though English is increasingly spoken in major cities, tourist areas, and by younger generations. Even a few basic Portuguese phrases are warmly appreciated and often open doors to deeper connection. Brazil's literary tradition reflects its diversity and emotional depth. Early literature explored colonial life and identity, while later writers turned inward, examining social inequality, spirituality, love, and the human condition. Brazilian writing often blends realism with lyricism, allowing everyday life to feel poetic. One of Brazil's most internationally recognized authors is Paulo Coelho, whose works explore spirituality, destiny, and self-discovery. His writing resonates globally, yet remains deeply connected to Brazilian ideas of faith, intuition, and personal journey. Poetry also holds a special place in Brazilian culture. Poets use language to capture landscapes, longing, humor, and resistance. Spoken word, song lyrics, and literature often overlap, blurring the line between written and oral storytelling. Libraries, bookshops, and literary festivals are found across Brazil, especially in major cities. Reading is seen not just as education, but as reflection, a way to understand both the self and society. In Brazil, language is more than communication. It is connection, creativity, and emotion, a living reflection of a country that speaks from the heart. Religion and spiritual life. Spiritual life in Brazil is layered, fluid, and deeply personal. Faith here is less about rigid boundaries and more about lived experience, something woven into daily routines, celebrations, music, and even casual conversation. Many Brazilians move comfortably between traditions, blending belief systems in ways that feel natural rather than contradictory. Catholicism has long shaped Brazil's religious landscape, visible in churches that anchor town squares and neighborhoods. Processions, saints' days, and festivals fill streets with color and devotion, especially during major religious celebrations. Churches are not only places of worship, but meeting points, spaces of comfort, memory, and community. Alongside Catholic traditions, Afro-Brazilian spiritual practices play a powerful role, particularly in regions like Bahia. Religions such as Candomblé and Umbanda honor African heritage, ancestral spirits, and a deep connection to nature. Rituals often include music, drumming, dance, and offerings, creating ceremonies that feel alive and participatory rather than distant or silent. Indigenous spiritual traditions continue to shape Brazil's spiritual identity as well. These belief systems emphasize harmony with nature, respect for ancestors, and the spiritual presence within rivers, forests, and animals. Though often less visible to visitors, they remain foundational to Brazil's understanding of the natural world. Modern Brazil is also home to growing evangelical communities, spiritual movements, and individual paths of belief. It is common for people to describe themselves as spiritual rather than strictly religious, choosing practices that resonate personally rather than following a single doctrine. What unites these traditions is openness. Visitors are often welcome to observe or participate respectfully, whether attending a church service, watching a procession, or witnessing a spiritual ceremony. Curiosity, humility, and respect are always appreciated. In Brazil, spirituality is not separate from life, it moves with it. It offers meaning, resilience, celebration, and connection, reflecting a country that embraces faith as something lived, felt, and shared. Customs and etiquette. Brazilian customs are shaped by warmth, openness, and a strong sense of togetherness. Social life here values connection over formality, and visitors often notice how quickly conversations become friendly and personal. Etiquette in Brazil is less about strict rules and more about showing respect, interest, and ease. Greetings are warm and expressive. A handshake is common in formal situations, but among friends and acquaintances, a hug or cheek kiss is typical, varying slightly by region. Eye contact, smiles, and friendly gestures matter. They signal openness and sincerity far more than perfect words. Time in Brazil is flexible. Social events often start later than planned, and punctuality is relaxed outside of professional settings. This isn't seen as disrespectful. Rather, it reflects a culture that prioritizes people over schedules. Patience and adaptability are appreciated traits. Hospitality is deeply ingrained. Guests are often offered food, drink, or coffee, and it's polite to accept, even if only a small amount. Meals are social occasions, meant to be enjoyed slowly with conversation. Refusing hospitality too firmly can feel distant, while showing appreciation goes a long way. Conversation is lively and expressive. Brazilians often speak with hand gestures, emotion, and humor. Topics like family, food, football, and travel are welcome, while political discussions can be passionate and are best approached thoughtfully. Listening is as important as speaking. Dress codes are generally relaxed but situational. Casual clothing is fine in many settings, yet people tend to dress neatly and take pride in their appearance, especially in cities and social gatherings. Beachwear is acceptable at the coast, but not away from beach areas. Respect for personal dignity matters. Politeness, friendliness, and avoiding arrogance are key. Showing interest in Brazilian culture, language, and daily life is often met with genuine warmth and enthusiasm. In Brazil, good etiquette is simple. Be kind, be present, and engage with sincerity. These qualities open doors more effectively than any formal rule. Sports and leisure. Sport in Brazil is not confined to stadiums. It spills into streets, beaches, parks, and everyday life. Leisure here is active, social, and often spontaneous, shaped by warm weather, open spaces, and a culture that values play as much as competition. Football is the country's great unifier. Played barefoot on sand, chalked onto concrete, or cheered inside vast stadiums, the game is woven into daily routine. Matches spark debate, celebration, and shared emotion, while informal kickabouts bring neighbors and generations together. Even for those who don't follow teams closely, football is a language everyone understands. Along the coast, leisure moves to the rhythm of the sea. Beaches are places of constant activity. Volleyball games rise and fall with the tide. Surfers scan the horizon for waves, and runners trace the shoreline at sunrise. The beach is both playground and meeting place, where exercise blends naturally with social life. Movement is also cultural. Capoeira, combining dance, music, and martial art, is practiced in public spaces and academies alike. Circles form, instruments play, and participants move in flowing dialogue, part sport, part performance, part tradition. It reflects Brazil's ability to turn physical expression into shared experience. Beyond cities, outdoor leisure takes a quieter form. Hiking, swimming in rivers, cycling, and exploring natural parks are popular escapes from urban life. Brazil's varied landscapes offer space for reflection as much as exertion, whether walking forest trails or floating in freshwater pools beneath waterfalls. Fitness is generally informal and accessible. Outdoor gyms, walking paths, and open courts are common, reinforcing the idea that leisure should be shared and open to all. People exercise together, talk together, and rest together, often in the same place. In Brazil, sport is less about winning and more about participation. Leisure is a way to connect, to the body, to others, and to the moment, reflecting a culture that values energy, balance, and joy. Handicrafts and traditions. Brazil's handicrafts tell stories of place, ancestry, and everyday life. Passed from hand to hand and generation to generation, traditional crafts remain deeply connected to community rather than commerce. To encounter Brazilian handicrafts is to see history lived quietly, shaped by natural materials, regional identity, and cultural memory. Across the country, materials come directly from the land. Clay becomes pottery, palm fibers are woven into baskets, wood is carved into figures, and cotton is stitched into lace and textiles. Each region develops its own techniques, colors, and patterns, reflecting local climate, resources, and tradition. In the Northeast, delicate lacework known as renda is crafted by hand, often by women working in small coastal or rural communities. These intricate designs take time and patience, transforming simple thread into heirloom-quality pieces. Lace here is not decorative excess, it is quiet skill and continuity. Indigenous communities preserve some of Brazil's most symbolic crafts. Beadwork, feather adornments, body paint, and woven items carry spiritual meaning as well as visual beauty. Colors and patterns often represent identity, nature, and ancestry, making each piece both art and language. In rural regions, folk art thrives through wood carving and painted figures that depict animals, daily work, and local legends. These pieces are expressive and honest, valuing character over polish. Markets and roadside stalls offer glimpses into this living tradition, where crafts are still made for use as much as for display. Festivals and celebrations bring traditions into motion. Handcrafted costumes, musical instruments, flags, and decorations appear seasonally, filling streets with color and texture. These moments remind visitors that Brazilian traditions are not static, they are activated through community, music, and shared participation. Handicrafts in Brazil are rarely rushed. They value process over speed, meaning over trend. Buying or observing these crafts supports not just artisans, but the survival of cultural knowledge rooted in place and people. Architecture through the ages. Brazil's architecture is a layered story written in stone, wood, concrete, and glass, each era leaving behind a distinct voice. Traveling through the country, buildings become markers of time, revealing how history, belief, power, and creativity have shaped the Brazilian landscape. The earliest structures were created by indigenous communities, using natural materials such as wood, palm leaves, and earth. These homes were designed for climate, community, and mobility, reflecting a deep understanding of nature rather than permanence. Though few physical examples remain, their influence endures in spatial thinking and sustainable design principles. With Portuguese colonization came a new architectural language. Colonial towns emerged along the coast, built around churches, squares, and narrow streets. Cities like Salvador and Olinda display colorful facades, tiled walls, and wooden balconies, shaped by European styles adapted to tropical heat. Churches from this era are especially striking, often modest on the outside but richly decorated within. The Baroque period brought drama and devotion into architecture. Ornate churches filled with gold leaf, carved wood, and intricate details reflected wealth drawn from mining and trade. These sacred spaces were designed to inspire awe, blending European artistic traditions with local craftsmanship. As Brazil moved into the 19th and early 20th centuries, architectural styles diversified. Neoclassical buildings appeared alongside eclectic urban designs, marking a shift toward national identity and independence. Cities expanded, railways arrived, and public buildings grew more ambitious in scale. The most radical transformation came with modernism, symbolized by the creation of Brasília. Designed as a planned capital, the city introduced sweeping curves, open spaces, and bold concrete forms. Architect Oscar Niemeyer's vision turned buildings into sculpture, redefining how architecture could express optimism, progress, and national confidence. Today, Brazilian architecture continues to evolve. Contemporary designs blend innovation with environmental awareness, often responding to climate and urban challenges. From favela-led community architecture to cutting-edge museums, buildings remain deeply connected to social life. In Brazil, architecture is never just background. It tells stories of belief, ambition, resilience, and imagination, shaping how people gather, move, and live. Ancient origins. Long before Brazil had a name, before borders, cities, or written history, this vast land was already alive with human presence. Brazil's ancient origins stretch back tens of thousands of years, shaped by indigenous peoples whose knowledge, traditions, and relationship with nature laid the foundations of the country we see today. Archaeological evidence suggests that humans arrived in what is now Brazil at least 12,000 to 15,000 years ago, possibly earlier. These early communities adapted to an extraordinary range of environments: dense rainforests, open savannas, river systems, and coastal plains, developing ways of life uniquely suited to each landscape. One of the most important windows into Brazil's deep past lies in the northeast, where ancient rock art and cave paintings depict animals, rituals, hunting scenes, and daily life. These images are not decorative, they are records of belief, survival, and identity, offering rare insight into how early societies understood the world around them. Across the Amazon, complex indigenous cultures flourished long before European arrival. Contrary to old assumptions, the rainforest was not untouched wilderness, it was carefully managed. Indigenous peoples cultivated crops, engineered fertile soils, built settlements, and shaped ecosystems in sustainable ways. Their understanding of biodiversity, medicine, and agriculture remains influential today. Social structures varied widely. Some groups lived nomadically, following seasonal resources, while others formed large, stable communities connected by trade routes along rivers. Oral storytelling, ritual, and spiritual belief were central, ensuring knowledge passed between generations without written language. These ancient cultures were deeply interconnected with nature. Rivers were pathways, forests were pharmacies, and animals were teachers and symbols. Survival depended on balance rather than domination, a philosophy that continues to resonate in modern conservation efforts. Although colonization disrupted and destroyed many indigenous societies, Brazil's ancient origins have not vanished. Descendant communities continue to protect languages, customs, and ancestral lands, carrying forward knowledge shaped over millennia. Understanding Brazil's ancient past adds depth to every journey through the country. Beneath modern cities and famous landscapes lies a much older story, one of resilience, wisdom, and enduring connection to the land. Kingdoms and empires. Brazil's past did not unfold through stone-built empires or crowned kingdoms in the European sense, yet it was no less organized, powerful, or complex. Before colonization, vast indigenous societies governed land, trade, belief, and survival across what is now Brazil. Sophisticated systems rooted in cooperation with nature rather than monumental architecture. In the Amazon basin, large, structured societies thrived for centuries. Archaeological discoveries reveal engineered landscapes, raised fields, canals, roads, and fertile soils known as terra preta. These communities supported dense populations and long-term settlement, challenging the idea that the rainforest could not sustain complex civilization. One of the most striking cultures was the Marajora civilization, which flourished on Marajo Island near the mouth of the Amazon between around 400 to 1400 CE. Known for its intricate ceramics, ceremonial mounds, and social hierarchy, Marajora society displayed artistic mastery and organized leadership. Their pottery remains among the most advanced pre-Columbian art forms in the Americas. Elsewhere, powerful tribal confederations governed territories through alliances, ritual authority, and oral law. Leadership was often shared among elders, shamans, and chiefs, balancing spiritual guidance with practical decision-making. Authority was earned through wisdom, bravery, and generosity rather than inherited titles. Although Brazil lay outside the core of the Inca Empire, it was not isolated. Trade networks extended across South America, connecting Amazonian societies with Andean cultures. Goods, crops, and ideas moved along river corridors and forest paths, weaving Brazil into a wider continental exchange long before Europeans arrived. Spiritual belief reinforced governance. Cosmology, ritual, and ancestry shaped law and social order, with ceremonies marking leadership, seasonal change, and communal responsibility. These belief systems bound communities together more tightly than walls or armies ever could. The arrival of Europeans disrupted these systems with devastating speed. Disease, enslavement, and displacement shattered many indigenous political structures, erasing entire societies before they could be recorded in writing. Yet their legacy survives in language, land management, food systems, and cultural memory. Brazil's kingdoms and empires were living systems rather than stone monuments. They ruled through knowledge, balance, and connection, leaving behind a quieter but deeply enduring imprint on the land. Colonial and foreign influence. Brazil's modern shape was forged through centuries of foreign influence, beginning with Portuguese arrival in the early 16th century. What followed was not a single moment of change, but a long and complex transformation, one that reshaped land, culture, people, and power in lasting ways. When the Portuguese claimed Brazil in 1500, they encountered vast indigenous societies already deeply rooted in the land. Early colonization focused on the coast, where ports and settlements grew around trade routes and plantations. Sugar quickly became a driving force, turning Brazil into one of the most valuable colonies in the Portuguese Empire. With this economy came profound human cost. Millions of Africans were forcibly brought to Brazil through the transatlantic slave trade, making Brazil the largest destination for enslaved Africans in the Americas. Their influence transformed Brazilian culture forever, shaping language, food, music, religion, and identity. African traditions survived through resilience, blending with indigenous and European elements to form uniquely Brazilian expressions. Foreign powers briefly contested Portuguese control. The Dutch presence in northeastern Brazil during the 17th century introduced new urban planning, scientific study, and religious tolerance, particularly in cities like Recife. Though short-lived, this period left architectural and cultural traces that still linger. As colonial wealth expanded inland, gold and diamond discoveries in the interior reshaped settlement patterns. Mining towns emerged rapidly, bringing both prosperity and inequality. Ornate churches and public buildings reflected wealth drawn from the earth, while colonial authority tightened its grip through taxation and control. European ideas also flowed in: Catholic doctrine, legal systems, language, and social hierarchy. Yet these influences never fully replaced local realities. Instead, they blended with indigenous knowledge and African heritage, creating layered traditions rather than uniform ones. By the late colonial period, Brazil was no longer just a distant outpost. It had become a central part of global trade networks, deeply connected to Europe, Africa, and beyond. This exposure laid the groundwork for future movements toward independence and national identity. Colonial and foreign influence in Brazil is not a closed chapter. Its effects remain visible in architecture, inequality, cultural fusion, and social structure, reminders of a past that continues to shape the present. Struggles and revolutions. Brazil's path towards self-determination was shaped less by sudden uprising and more by long, uneven struggle. Change came in waves, through resistance, reform, and quiet persistence, as different groups challenged inequality, foreign control, and entrenched power. During the colonial era, resentment grew as wealth flowed outward while hardship remained at home. In mining regions, heavy taxation and strict oversight sparked early resistance movements. These uprisings were often led by educated elites, soldiers, and local leaders who imagined a Brazil free from colonial rule. Though many of these early revolts failed, they planted the idea that independence was possible. Enslaved Africans resisted in powerful ways of their own. Across Brazil, Quilombos, communities formed by people who escaped slavery, became symbols of freedom and defiance. The most famous of these grew into self-sustaining settlements that resisted colonial forces for decades, proving that alternative societies could exist beyond oppression. The 19th century brought growing pressure for reform. Influenced by Enlightenment ideas and global revolutions, Brazilians began to question monarchy, slavery, and rigid class structures. Abolitionist movements gained strength, driven by activists, intellectuals, and formerly enslaved people themselves. When slavery was finally abolished in 1888, it marked a historic moral victory, though true equality remained far from achieved. Soon after, the monarchy fell. The proclamation of the Republic in 1889 ended imperial rule and introduced a new political era. While this transition was relatively peaceful compared to revolutions elsewhere, it reflected deep dissatisfaction with inherited power and a desire for national renewal. The 20th century saw further struggles, labor movements demanding workers' rights, rural communities fighting for land, and urban populations pushing for political representation. Periods of authoritarian rule and military control tested democratic ideals, prompting widespread protest and resistance. Brazil's struggles were not always loud or unified, but they were persistent. Change emerged through endurance as much as rebellion, shaped by voices that refused to disappear: indigenous peoples, Afro-Brazilians, workers, and reformers. These revolutions, both visible and quiet, formed the backbone of modern Brazil. They remind us that progress is rarely straightforward, and that national identity is forged through challenge as much as celebration. Modern nationhood. Brazil's modern nationhood is a story of reinvention, a country learning how to govern itself while balancing scale, diversity, and inequality. Emerging from monarchy into republic, Brazil stepped into the modern era with ambition, uncertainty, and a determination to define its own path. The transition to a republic at the end of the 19th century marked a symbolic break from colonial hierarchy, but real power remained concentrated among elites. The early decades of nationhood were shaped by rapid urban growth, expanding industry, and shifting political structures. Cities grew quickly, drawing people from rural areas in search of opportunity, reshaping Brazil's social fabric. A defining moment in Brazil's modern identity came with the creation of Brasília, the purpose-built capital inaugurated in 1960. Constructed in the country's interior, it represented a bold vision of progress and unity, an attempt to decentralize power and look forward rather than backward. Its modernist design and planned layout embodied optimism and national confidence. The mid to late 20th century tested Brazil's democratic ideals. Periods of authoritarian rule, including a military government, restricted freedoms and silenced opposition. Yet resistance persisted through art, music, student movements, and grassroots activism. When democracy was restored, it came not as a gift, but as the result of collective pressure and perseverance. In recent decades, Brazil has continued to evolve as a democratic nation, navigating economic growth, social reform, and global influence alongside ongoing challenges. Expanding education, cultural expression, and international presence have strengthened national identity, even as debates around inequality, environment, and governance continue. What defines Brazil's modern nationhood is not perfection, but momentum. It is a country in conversation with itself, questioning, adapting, and moving forward. Its identity is shaped as much by unfinished work as by achievements, reflecting a nation that remains open to change. Modern Brazil stands not as a fixed idea, but as a living project, shaped daily by the voices, choices, and resilience of its people. Today's identity. Brazil today is a country defined by diversity, contrast, and constant motion. Its identity is not singular or static, it is layered, evolving, and shaped by millions of voices living across vast landscapes. To understand modern Brazil is to accept complexity, where joy and challenge often exist side by side. Culturally, Brazil is deeply expressive. Music, sport, humor, and celebration remain central to daily life, offering connection even in difficult times. Creativity is not a luxury here, it is a necessity. From street art to social media, from neighborhood festivals to national conversations, Brazilians continually find ways to express who they are and where they stand. Brazil's population reflects centuries of movement and mixing. Indigenous heritage, African ancestry, European roots, and global migration have created a society rich in perspectives, traditions, and identities. This diversity is visible in language, food, belief, and appearance, making everyday life feel vibrant and multifaceted. At the same time, modern Brazil faces real challenges. Inequality, environmental pressure, and political debate are part of the national conversation. These issues are openly discussed, questioned, and contested, revealing a society engaged with its future rather than resigned to its past. Activism, community organization, and grassroots initiatives play an important role in shaping change. Urban life moves quickly, especially in major cities where innovation, culture, and global influence intersect. Yet rural regions and traditional communities continue to preserve slower rhythms, grounded in land, family, and local identity. This balance between speed and stillness defines much of Brazil's character. Hospitality remains one of Brazil's strongest traits. Visitors often experience warmth, curiosity, and generosity, whether in busy cities or remote towns. Relationships matter deeply, and human connection often takes precedence over formality or efficiency. Brazil today is confident but questioning, joyful yet reflective. It is a country still becoming itself, shaped not by a single narrative, but by many overlapping stories, all moving forward together. Top cities, towns, and villages. Brazil's cities and towns reflect the country's vastness and variety, each with its own rhythm, history, and relationship to the land. From global megacities to preserved colonial towns and remote river settlements, traveling between them feels like moving through many Brazils within one nation. Rio de Janeiro is Brazil's most iconic city, where mountains, rainforest, and ocean collide. Life here unfolds outdoors, on beaches, viewpoints, and lively streets. The city's dramatic setting shapes its personality, expressive, energetic, and unmistakably confident. São Paulo is Brazil's largest city and economic heart. Fast-paced and multicultural, it thrives on creativity, cuisine, and culture. Museums, music venues, and neighborhood markets reflect a city built by migration and ambition, offering endless layers to explore. In the northeast, Salvador carries deep Afro-Brazilian heritage. Its historic Pelourinho district glows with color, music, and faith, while rhythms of drums and dance echo through daily life. Salvador feels spiritual, expressive, and rooted in tradition. Deep in the Amazon, Manaus stands as a gateway to the rainforest. Once wealthy from the rubber boom, the city blends grand architecture with river culture. From here, journeys continue by boat into remote communities where waterways replace roads. Smaller towns reveal Brazil's quieter charm. Ouro Preto preserves its colonial past through cobbled streets and ornate churches, offering a window into Brazil's mining history. Coastal villages, inland farming towns, and river settlements each reveal local traditions shaped by geography and pace of life. Brazil's towns and villages are not simply stops between cities, they are destinations in their own right. They offer intimacy, tradition, and moments of stillness that balance the country's scale and intensity. Historic and cultural landmarks. Brazil's landmarks are more than famous sites. They are chapters of the country's story, set in stone, steel, and landscape. Each one reflects a moment of belief, ambition, creativity, or resilience, offering travelers a tangible connection to Brazil's past and present. Towering above Rio de Janeiro, Christ the Redeemer has become one of the world's most recognizable monuments. More than a statue, it is a symbol of welcome and protection, standing with open arms above the city's forests and beaches. From its viewpoint, the scale and beauty of Rio unfold in every direction. In the northeast, the historic heart of Salvador lies in the Pelourinho district, where brightly colored colonial buildings line steep cobbled streets. Once a center of colonial power and trade, the area now pulses with music, dance, and Afro-Brazilian culture, transforming history into something living and expressive. Brazil's natural landmarks are equally powerful. Iguacu Falls stands as both a natural wonder and a cultural symbol, long revered for its scale and force. Walkways bring visitors close enough to feel the spray and hear the roar, creating an experience that is both humbling and unforgettable. Modern Brazil is represented most clearly in Brasília, a city built to embody progress and national unity. Landmarks such as the cathedral and government buildings transform concrete into sculpture, reflecting a belief in innovation and forward-thinking design. For a journey into colonial Brazil, Ouro Preto offers preserved churches, plazas, and hillside streets that echo the wealth and contradictions of the mining era. Ornate Baroque interiors contrast with the town's modest scale, revealing how faith and power once shaped daily life. Together, these landmarks form a map of Brazil's identity, sacred and secular, ancient and modern, natural and human-made. Visiting them is not just sightseeing, but storytelling, where each place adds depth to the journey. Beaches and coastline. Brazil's coastline stretches for more than 7,000 kilometers, offering an extraordinary variety of beaches shaped by wind, waves, culture, and time. From lively urban shores to remote, untouched sands, the coast is where Brazil relaxes, celebrates, and connects with the sea. In cities like Rio de Janeiro, beaches are extensions of daily life. Copacabana and Ipanema are not just places to swim, they are social stages. Locals jog at sunrise, play volleyball through the afternoon, and gather as the sun sinks into the Atlantic. Music, conversation, and movement give these beaches a rhythm as recognizable as any samba beat. Further north, the coastline softens and slows. In Bahia, beaches curve gently beneath palm trees, where warm waters meet golden sand and time seems to stretch. Places like Praia do Espelho offer calm, reflective beauty, ideal for swimming, walking, and watching light shift across the sea. For those seeking untouched nature, Fernando de Noronha stands apart. This protected island chain is surrounded by clear turquoise waters, dramatic cliffs, and vibrant marine life. Dolphins glide through bays, turtles nest on quiet beaches, and strict conservation rules preserve a sense of rare purity. In the northeast, beaches take on a more adventurous spirit. Wind and sand sculpt landscapes around Jericoacoara, where dunes meet the ocean and freshwater lagoons appear after rain. Kite surfers, travelers, and locals share sunsets that feel almost theatrical in scale. Brazil's coastline also reflects cultural diversity. Fishing villages, Afro-Brazilian communities, and colonial ports each leave their mark through food, music, and daily routines tied to the sea. Life here follows tides as much as clocks. Whether energetic or serene, Brazil's beaches invite presence. Shoes come off, conversations slow, and the horizon becomes a reminder of openness and possibility. Hidden gems. Beyond Brazil's famous icons lies a quieter collection of places, landscapes and towns that reward curiosity and slow travel. These hidden gems reveal Brazil at its most intimate, where nature feels closer, crowds thin out, and local life sets the pace. Golden dunes rise from vast savanna, broken by emerald rivers and natural springs where clear water bubbles up from the sand. Remote and lightly visited, Jalapão offers silence, stars, and a sense of discovery that's increasingly rare. During the dry season, white sand river beaches emerge, earning the nickname the Caribbean of the Amazon. Life here revolves around the river, swimming, fishing, and sunset boat rides, all framed by rainforest rather than ocean. History hides quietly in the south at São Miguel das Missões. These atmospheric ruins are all that remain of Jesuit missions once built to unite indigenous Guarani communities and European settlers. At dusk, stone walls glow softly, and the site feels reflective rather than monumental. For hikers seeking solitude, Vale do Pati within Chapada Diamantina offers one of Brazil's most rewarding treks. Days pass through valleys, rivers, and viewpoints, with nights spent in small local homes. The experience feels personal, grounded, and deeply connected to the land. Off the São Paulo coast, Ilha do Cardoso State Park blends rainforest, mangroves, and untouched beaches. Accessible only by boat, the island protects traditional fishing communities and wild coastal ecosystems, offering a rare balance between human life and preservation. Brazil's hidden gems are not defined by spectacle, but by feeling, places where time stretches, conversations linger, and the country reveals itself quietly to those willing to look beyond the obvious. Adventure and activities. Brazil is made for adventure, not the extreme, rushed kind, but experiences that immerse you fully in landscape, movement, and sensation. With its vast natural playgrounds, adventure here feels expansive and varied, shaped as much by water and forest as by mountains and sky. Along the coast and islands, the ocean becomes an open invitation. Surfing is popular in many regions, while snorkeling and scuba diving around Fernando de Noronha reveal coral reefs, turtles, rays, and dolphins in clear, protected waters. Sea conditions vary widely, offering calm bays for beginners and open swells for experienced adventurers. Rivers drive many inland activities. Whitewater rafting through forested valleys delivers adrenaline and scenery in equal measure, while calmer stretches invite kayaking and stand-up paddleboarding. In places like Bonito, floating silently along crystal-clear rivers allows travelers to observe fish and plant life without disturbance. Brazil's landscapes also reward those who look upward. Paragliding and hang gliding over coastal cities like Rio de Janeiro offer unforgettable aerial views of mountains, beaches, and forest meeting the sea. These flights feel both exhilarating and peaceful, carried by wind rather than engine. Inland, dunes, and deserts bring a different energy. Sandboarding down wind-sculpted slopes, off-road driving through remote savanna, and exploring freshwater springs turn wide-open spaces into adventure zones defined by freedom rather than speed. For those drawn to endurance rather than adrenaline, trekking and multi-day hikes provide deep connection. Walking through rainforest trails, canyon routes, and remote valleys brings encounters with wildlife, waterfalls, and local communities. These journeys are slow and grounding, rewarding patience and curiosity. Even cities encourage active exploration. Cycling paths, urban parks, and open-air fitness spaces make movement part of daily life, blurring the line between leisure and lifestyle. Adventure in Brazil is rarely about conquering nature. It's about engaging with it, letting rivers guide you, winds lift you, and landscapes set the pace. Cultural experiences. Cultural experiences in Brazil are not staged, they are lived. Rather than being confined to museums or scheduled performances, culture reveals itself in everyday moments. A shared meal, music drifting from a doorway, a spontaneous conversation in a market. To experience Brazil culturally is to slow down and participate. Music and movement are natural entry points. Join a capoeira roda in a public square, where rhythm, motion, and call and response blur the line between performer and audience. Even as an observer, the energy is magnetic. Dance classes, from samba to forró, offer welcoming spaces where visitors are encouraged to join in, laugh, and learn by doing. Markets provide another window into Brazilian life. Local food stalls, craft vendors, and informal cafes create spaces where culture is exchanged as much as goods. Conversations are unhurried, advice is freely offered, and curiosity is met with warmth. Ordering food, asking questions, or simply watching daily routines reveals how deeply social Brazilian culture is. Food experiences are especially meaningful. Sharing a home-cooked meal, attending a community barbecue, or learning to prepare traditional dishes connects visitors directly to family life and regional identity. Recipes are often passed down orally, making cooking an act of storytelling as much as nourishment. Spiritual and religious traditions are also open to respectful visitors. Processions, festivals, and ceremonies often welcome observers who approach with humility. Whether inside a grand church or an open-air ceremony, these moments reveal how belief and community intertwine. Time spent with locals often becomes the most memorable experience. Brazilians value conversation, humor, and presence. Sitting in a cafe, watching football together, or joining a neighborhood celebration creates connections that feel genuine and lasting. Cultural experiences in Brazil are not about ticking boxes. They are about showing up, listening, participating, and allowing yourself to be part of the moment. In doing so, Brazil reveals its heart not through spectacle, but through shared humanity. Bucket list highlights. Some experiences in Brazil rise above the rest, not because they are famous, but because they stay with you. These are moments where place, feeling, and memory align, creating stories travelers carry long after they've gone home. Watching the sun rise behind Christ the Redeemer is one such moment. As light spills across Rio de Janeiro, mountains and sea glow softly beneath the statue's open arms. The city feels hushed, reflective, a rare pause before the day's rhythm begins. Standing at the edge of Iguacu Falls, surrounded by mist and thunder, delivers pure awe. The scale is overwhelming, the sound physical. It's a reminder of nature's power and how small we are within it. A journey along the Amazon River offers a different kind of wonder. Days pass slowly by boat, forests shifting on the horizon, wildlife appearing quietly at the water's edge. Nights bring stars and silence, broken only by the hum of insects and distant calls. It's an experience defined by patience and immersion. In the northeast, swimming in the rain-fed lagoons of Lenquar Maranhenses feels surreal. Cool, clear water rests between white dunes under wide skies, creating a landscape that seems impossible until you're standing in it. Experiencing carnival from within, whether dancing in a street bloco or watching samba schools perform, is unforgettable. The color, music, and emotion go beyond spectacle, revealing Brazil's joy, resilience, and creativity in motion. Other highlights include spotting jaguars in the Pantanal, diving with dolphins in Fernando de Noronha, hiking remote valleys in Chapada Diamantina, and sharing a simple meal in a small town far from tourist routes. Brazil's bucket list moments aren't just about seeing things, they're about feeling present. They reward openness, curiosity, and the willingness to slow down. Money and currency. Handling money in Brazil is generally straightforward, especially in cities and tourist areas, but a little preparation goes a long way. The country's financial systems reflect its modern urban centers alongside more cash-reliant rural regions, so flexibility is key. Brazil's official currency is the Brazilian real, BRL, written as a dollar. Banknotes are colorful and durable, while coins are commonly used for small purchases. Prices are usually displayed clearly, and bargaining is not customary in shops, though it may be acceptable at informal markets. In major cities, credit and debit cards are widely accepted in hotels, restaurants, supermarkets, and shops. Contactless payments are common, and many locals rely heavily on digital banking. However, in smaller towns, beach kiosks, and remote regions, cash is still important, especially for transport, tips, and local vendors. ATMs are available in cities, airports, and shopping centers, though fewer are found in rural areas. Using ATMs during daylight hours and inside banks or malls is recommended. International cards generally work, but informing your bank before traveling can help avoid issues. Tipping is modest and often included. Restaurants typically add a 10% service charge, which is optional but commonly paid. Additional tipping is not expected, though rounding up fares or leaving small change is appreciated for exceptional service. Exchange services are best found at banks, official exchange offices, or airports. Exchanging money on the street is unsafe and discouraged. Travelers should also keep smaller denominations handy, as large notes may be difficult to break in taxis or small shops. Brazil can be good value for travelers, but costs vary widely depending on region and lifestyle. Major cities and popular destinations can be more expensive, while smaller towns often feel refreshingly affordable. Managing money in Brazil is less about complexity and more about balance, combining digital convenience with the practicality of cash when needed. Transport and getting around. Getting around Brazil is an adventure in scale. Distances are vast, landscapes change dramatically, and transport options vary from ultramodern to wonderfully slow. Understanding how to move around helps travelers choose not just the fastest route, but the most rewarding one. For long distances, domestic flights are the most practical option. Brazil's size makes flying the preferred way to travel between regions, especially from the south and southeast to the Amazon or northeast. Flights are frequent between major cities and often reasonably priced when booked in advance. Within cities, public transport plays a major role. Large cities operate metro and train systems that are affordable and efficient for navigating central areas. Buses are widespread and reach almost everywhere, though routes can feel complex at first. In many places, buses are the backbone of daily life. Taxis and ride-hailing apps are widely used and generally safe in urban areas, offering convenience and fixed pricing through apps. They are especially useful at night or when traveling with luggage. Using apps is preferred over hailing taxis on the street in busy cities. For shorter regional journeys, intercity buses are reliable, comfortable, and surprisingly well organized. Long-distance buses often feature reclining seats, air conditioning, and overnight routes, making them a popular choice for budget-conscious travelers. In the Amazon and wetland regions, boats and ferries replace roads. River transport is essential, connecting cities, towns, and remote communities. Journeys may take hours or days, but they offer a unique, immersive way to experience Brazil's waterways and daily life. Driving is possible in many regions, particularly for coastal routes and national parks. Roads range from modern highways to rough rural tracks, so conditions should always be checked in advance. Hiring a car offers freedom, but patience is essential. Transport in Brazil is not just about efficiency, it's about adapting to the country's rhythm. Whether flying above rainforests, drifting along rivers, or watching landscapes unfold from a bus window, the journey often becomes part of the experience. Visas and entry requirements. Brazil welcomes travelers from around the world, and entry is generally straightforward with a little advanced preparation. Requirements vary by nationality, so checking the latest rules before travel is essential, but most visitors find the process smooth and uncomplicated. Many travelers can enter Brazil visa-free for short stays, typically for tourism or business. These stays are usually limited in length and may not allow paid work. Passport validity is important. Passports should generally be valid for at least 6 months beyond the date of entry, with at least one blank page. Upon arrival, visitors may be asked to show proof of onward or return travel and evidence of sufficient funds for their stay. Immigration procedures are usually efficient at major international airports, though queues can be longer during peak travel seasons. Some nationalities may require a tourist visa or electronic authorization prior to travel. Application processes are typically completed online or through consulates and can take several days or weeks, so early planning is advised. Overstaying a visa can result in fines or restrictions on future travel. Travelers arriving from certain countries may need to show vaccination certificates, particularly for yellow fever if traveling to or from affected regions. While not always checked at entry, carrying documentation is strongly recommended. Brazilian customs regulations are standard. Personal items are allowed, while restrictions apply to fresh food, plants, and large quantities of goods. Declaring items honestly helps avoid delays or penalties. Entry requirements can change, so it's wise to consult official government or embassy sources close to your departure date. Once inside the country, travelers often find Brazil welcoming and relaxed, a contrast to the formality of border procedures. With documents prepared and expectations clear, entering Brazil becomes simply the first step in a much larger journey. Safety and health. Brazil is a welcoming and rewarding destination, and most travelers experience it safely with common sense awareness. Like any large and diverse country, conditions vary by region, but a few practical precautions help ensure a smooth journey. Healthcare in Brazil is well developed in major cities, where private hospitals and clinics offer high standards of care. Pharmacies are widespread and well-stocked, often serving as first stops for minor issues. In rural or remote regions, facilities can be limited, so travel insurance that covers medical care and evacuation is strongly recommended. Vaccinations are not always mandatory, but some are recommended, particularly for travelers heading to rainforest or wetland areas. Yellow fever vaccination is commonly advised for parts of the country, and basic protections against mosquito bites help reduce the risk of mosquito-borne illnesses. Light clothing, repellents, and awareness at dawn and dusk go a long way. Food hygiene is generally good, especially in busy restaurants and markets. Choosing places with steady local customers is a reliable guide. Staying hydrated is important in Brazil's warm climate. Bottled or filtered water is widely available, and ice is usually safe in reputable establishments. In terms of personal safety, Brazil rewards awareness rather than anxiety. In large cities, it's best to avoid displaying valuables openly and to use well-lit, busy areas, especially at night. Ride-hailing apps and registered taxis are preferred for transport after dark. Smaller towns and rural areas often feel relaxed and community-oriented. Emergency services operate nationwide, and local people are often quick to help if needed. Knowing basic Portuguese phrases can be useful, but assistance is usually accessible even with language barriers. Brazil's greatest safety asset is its people. Warmth, hospitality, and shared responsibility often define everyday interactions. With preparation and sensible choices, travelers can focus on enjoying the country's landscapes, culture, and rhythm. Communication. Communication in Brazil is lively, expressive, and personal. Conversations are often warm and animated, shaped by tone, gesture, and emotion as much as words. While language can feel like a barrier at first, Brazilians are generally patient and welcoming, making communication easier than many travelers expect. The official language is Portuguese, and it is used in all aspects of daily life. English is spoken in major cities, airports, hotels, and tourist-focused businesses, but outside these areas it becomes less common. Learning a few basic Portuguese phrases is greatly appreciated and often met with encouragement and smiles. Mobile phone use is widespread, and staying connected is simple. Local SIM cards are affordable and available at airports, phone shops, and shopping centers. They provide reliable coverage in cities and along main travel routes. In remote areas such as the Amazon, signal can be limited or unavailable, making offline planning important. Wi-Fi is commonly available in hotels, cafes, restaurants, and shopping malls. Public Wi-Fi exists in some city areas, though speeds and reliability can vary. Messaging apps are widely used for both personal and business communication, often replacing email and phone calls. Written communication, including signs and menus, is almost always in Portuguese. Translation apps can be very helpful for reading menus, transport information, or directions. In-person communication tends to be informal, friendly, and flexible rather than strictly transactional. Body language plays a role in everyday interaction. Eye contact, facial expressions, and hand gestures help convey meaning, especially when words fall short. Politeness and friendliness often matter more than perfect grammar. In Brazil, communication is not just about exchanging information, it's about building connection. A smile, a greeting, or a few words in Portuguese can quickly turn a simple interaction into a memorable moment. Local laws and customs. Brazil's laws are generally straightforward and daily life feels relaxed, but visitors are expected to respect local rules and social norms. Understanding a few key points helps travelers move confidently and avoid unnecessary issues. Carrying official identification is important in Brazil. Visitors should keep a passport or a clear copy with them, as police may request ID during routine checks, especially in cities or at events. Cooperation and politeness are always the best approach. Drug laws in Brazil are strict. Possession, use, or trafficking of illegal substances can lead to serious penalties, including arrest and imprisonment. Even small amounts can cause legal trouble, so avoiding illegal drugs entirely is essential. Alcohol is widely available and socially accepted, particularly during festivals and social gatherings. However, drinking and driving laws are extremely strict, with zero tolerance enforced nationwide. Penalties include heavy fines, license suspension, and possible arrest. Public drunkenness that causes disturbance can also attract police attention. Smoking is banned in enclosed public spaces such as restaurants, bars, and transport facilities. Outdoor areas are generally permitted unless clearly marked otherwise. Following posted signs is important, as enforcement is common. Photography is allowed in most public places, but caution is advised near government buildings, military areas, and police installations. When photographing people, especially in indigenous or religious settings, asking permission is respectful and often welcomed. Culturally, respect and friendliness go a long way. Loud confrontations, aggressive behavior, or impatience are poorly received. Brazilians value courtesy, conversation, and personal dignity. Showing interest in local customs and making an effort with the language is seen positively. Dress codes are informal but situational. Beachwear belongs at the beach, while cities and religious sites call for more modest attire. Being neatly dressed is a sign of respect in social and professional settings. Brazil's laws provide structure, but its customs shape experience. Travelers who balance awareness with openness often find interactions smooth and welcoming. Time, power, and connectivity. Brazil's size means that time, power, and connectivity can feel slightly different depending on where you are, but overall, staying oriented and connected is easy with a little preparation. Brazil spans multiple time zones, though most major cities follow Brasília time, BRT. The country does not consistently observe daylight saving time, so time differences can change seasonally compared to other parts of the world. Checking local time when traveling between regions is especially useful for flights and river transport. Electricity in Brazil is reliable in cities and towns. The standard voltage is 127V or 220V, depending on the region, and the frequency is 60 Hz. Brazil uses Type-C and Type-N plugs, which may differ from those used elsewhere. Travelers should bring a universal adapter, and in some cases a voltage converter, especially for high-powered devices. Charging points are widely available in hotels, cafes, airports, and shopping centers. In more remote areas, power outages can occur, and access may be limited to certain hours. Carrying a portable power bank is highly recommended when traveling outside major cities. Connectivity is strong across much of the country. Mobile networks provide good coverage in urban areas and along main transport routes. In rural regions, forests, and wetlands, signal can weaken or disappear entirely, making offline maps and downloads essential. Internet speeds in cities are generally fast, and Wi-Fi is common in accommodation and public venues. Messaging and navigation apps work well, and digital payments often rely on mobile connectivity, reinforcing the value of staying charged and connected. Brazil's rhythm encourages balance. Being connected is easy, but stepping briefly offline, especially in nature-rich regions, often becomes part of the experience rather than an inconvenience. Accommodation options. Brazil offers a wide range of accommodation, shaped by its size, landscapes, and relaxed approach to hospitality. Whether staying in a buzzing city, a quiet coastal village, or deep in the rainforest, places to stay often reflect the character of their surroundings. In cities, hotels range from international chains to stylish boutique options. Major urban centers provide modern comforts, reliable services, and central locations close to transport, restaurants, and cultural attractions. Business hotels are common in large cities, while boutique hotels often highlight local design and personality. Along the coast and in smaller towns, posadas are a popular choice. These locally run guest houses are often family-owned, offering a warm, personal atmosphere. Rooms are usually simple but comfortable, and hosts are often happy to share local tips. Posadas are especially common in beach towns and historic areas. For budget travelers, hostels are widespread and social, particularly in popular destinations. Many offer private rooms alongside dormitories, making them suitable for a range of travel styles. Hostels often double as social hubs, organizing tours, events, and shared meals. In nature-rich regions, eco-lodges and jungle lodges provide immersive stays. Built to blend with the environment, these accommodations focus on sustainability and guided experiences such as wildlife spotting, river trips, and cultural exchanges. Electricity and connectivity may be limited, but the experience is deeply rewarding. Brazil also has an abundance of apartments and holiday rentals, especially in cities and beach destinations. These are ideal for longer stays, families, or travelers who enjoy independence and self-catering. Rentals often provide a more local experience of neighborhood life. Luxury travelers are well catered for too, with resorts and high-end lodges offering spa facilities, beach access, and curated experiences. These are most common in coastal areas and exclusive natural settings. Booking in advance is recommended during peak seasons such as Carnival, school holidays, and major festivals. Prices and standards vary by region, but hospitality is almost always generous. Accommodation in Brazil is not just a place to sleep, it's part of the journey, offering insight into daily life, local rhythms, and the country's welcoming spirit. Food and water safety. Food is one of Brazil's great pleasures, and enjoying it safely is mostly a matter of simple awareness. Across the country, standards are generally good, especially in busy restaurants and markets, and travelers who follow local habits tend to eat well without issue. In cities and popular destinations, restaurants and cafes maintain solid hygiene standards. A good rule of thumb is to eat where locals eat. High turnover usually means fresh food. Brazilian cuisine is often cooked to order, and hot dishes are typically served hot, reducing risk. Street food is an important part of Brazilian culture and can be enjoyed safely when chosen wisely. Look for vendors with clean setups, gloves or utensils, and a steady stream of customers. Freshly cooked snacks such as pastries and grilled foods are usually the safest choices. Tap water is not recommended for drinking in most parts of Brazil. Bottled water is inexpensive and widely available, and many hotels and homes use filtered water systems. Ice is generally safe in reputable restaurants and bars, but when in doubt, asking is acceptable. Fresh fruit is abundant and delicious. Fruits that can be peeled, such as bananas, mangoes, and oranges, are safest when traveling in rural areas. Salads and raw vegetables are fine in reputable restaurants but should be avoided in places where hygiene standards are unclear. Brazil's warm climate makes hydration essential. Drinking plenty of water helps prevent fatigue and heat-related illness, especially when sightseeing or spending time outdoors. Electrolyte drinks are widely available and useful during hot days. Food allergies and dietary preferences are increasingly understood, particularly in larger cities. Vegetarian options are common, though vegan choices may require clearer communication. Learning a few key food-related phrases in Portuguese can be very helpful. With basic care, food in Brazil is not something to worry about, it's something to look forward to. Meals are meant to be shared, savored, and remembered. Useful apps and resources. Traveling through Brazil is easier with the right digital tools. From navigation and transport to language and payments, a handful of well-chosen apps can simplify daily logistics and help you travel with confidence, whether you're in a major city or a remote region. Navigation and maps. Reliable maps are essential, especially when exploring cities or traveling independently. Offline map features are particularly useful in areas with limited signal, such as national parks or rural regions. Navigation apps help with walking routes, public transport directions, and estimated travel times. Transport and ride services. Ride-hailing apps are widely used across Brazil and are often the safest and most convenient way to get around cities, particularly at night. Long-distance bus booking platforms help travelers compare routes, seat types, and prices, making overland travel more comfortable and predictable. Language and translation. Portuguese is the key to deeper connection in Brazil. Translation apps assist with menus, signs, and conversations, while language apps help travelers learn essential phrases before and during their trip. Even small efforts with the language are warmly appreciated. Accommodation and travel planning. Booking apps allow travelers to compare hotels, posadas, hostels, and rentals across different regions. Review platforms are useful for checking location, cleanliness, and local tips shared by previous visitors. Money and payments. Currency converter apps help track spending and understand prices quickly. Banking apps with international access simplify ATM withdrawals and card management, while budgeting tools are useful for longer stays. Food and local discovery. Restaurant and review apps help travelers find trusted places to eat, especially when navigating unfamiliar neighborhoods. They're particularly helpful for identifying busy, well-rated spots favored by locals. Connectivity and safety. Messaging apps are widely used in Brazil for communication with hosts, guides, and businesses. Weather apps help plan outdoor activities, especially in regions with seasonal rain. Emergency numbers and local embassy websites should be saved for quick access. Official and informational resources. Government tourism websites and national park pages provide up-to-date information on entry requirements, conservation rules, and safety advice. These resources are especially useful when visiting protected areas or planning specialized activities. Used together, these tools reduce friction and free you to focus on experience rather than logistics. They don't replace curiosity or local interaction, they simply support it. As the moonlight reflects off the vast, winding curves of the Amazon and the warm breeze of the Atlantic settles over the quiet streets of Paraty, our journey through Brazil comes to its close. We have traveled from the mist-covered canopy of the rainforest to the sun-flecked hills of the south. We have walked through the stone history of the past and the vibrant architecture of the future. The energy, the color, and the deep, green heart of this land are now yours to carry with you into your dreams. If you found peace in this chronicle tonight, please like this video and subscribe to Apex Atlas. Your support allows us to continue mapping the world, one story at a time. For a piece of this tropical wilderness to keep, our Brazil-inspired collection of maps and prints is available in the shop below. But for now, the forest is still. The stars are bright over the Cerrado. Let the rhythm of the tides and the breath of the mountains lead you into a deep, restorative rest. Thank you for wandering with us tonight. Sleep well. Good night.